Topping our lineup here on the Now, nearly half of people in state prisons are there due to minor probation or parole infractions. How these costs are adding up for all of us. And these online car listings, they promise great deals. Turns out they're fake, though. The people behind them don't even own the cars. The red flags to watch for when you're shopping online. And could you give up your smartphone for a year if it meant getting $100,000? Well, we're talking to a woman who's been doing it for nearly 5 months. Her advice that we can all use.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome to the Now Indy on RTV6. I'm Amanda Starantino. The warmer weather means the new threats when you head outside. Tick season is here, and the little critters can carry diseases that cause lifelong problems. Our Alyssa Donovan explains how you can avoid ticks and the potentially serious problems they can cause.
In the past several years, there's been an increase in the amount of ticks here in central Indiana, and health officials are warning people before they go outside, they need to prepare themselves to stay safe. Ticks live in wooded areas and can even live in the grass in your backyard. Health officials say one of the easiest precautions you can take is to use insect repellent with at least 25% DEET. You should also check yourself for ticks after being outside. There are 3 different kinds of ticks you may encounter here in Indiana, but the deer tick is the one that carries the most common disease, Lyme disease. Lyme disease symptoms start like the flu and a rash, and it can be treated with antibiotics if it's caught early. Mary Kay Foster is the Special Pathogens Program Manager at IU Health. She says if the disease is not caught in time, it can have lifelong impacts.
Anywhere from tremors, severe headaches, a lot of neurological issues. Arthritis is another common one with Lyme's disease. People can die from it, especially if it gets into the lining of the brain.
And it's not just you the ticks are interested in. Keep an eye on your pets this summer. Talk to your vet about collars and medicines that help prevent ticks from latching on. I'm Alyssa Donovan, RTV6.
And continuing coverage now with more CDC recommendations on how to avoid tick bites. Treat clothing and gear with products containing 0.5% of permethrin. The CDC says permethrin can be used to treat boots, clothing, and camping gear and remain protective through several washings that can keep ticks away. If you have to go into the woods, walk in the center of trails. Check your clothing for ticks. Also shower soon after being outdoors. Kevin, those stories always give me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, the rain may wash anything off. You don't have to shower. You just get caught in the downpour. As you look at these Weather Now cameras, keep in mind, if you get a good downpour that moves through, the sun comes out afterwards, you might step outside and see if you can see a good-looking rainbow. It's kind of perfect rainbow situation here. The wind is light. These storms are moving slowly, and they put down heavy rainfall. 77 in Indy, 82 in Kokomo, and it's 79 down in Bloomington. At first glance, you don't see anything real impressive. These are all just little individual cells, but yet with heavy rainfall. Notice this is starting to fan out into Shelby County, and this is kind of a vision test, but see this little squiggly line? You ever get that feeling, you feel the cool air that rushes out ahead of the thunderstorms? That's what we call the gust front. Some gusty winds, but it helps build additional thunderstorms. Heavy rainfall has been sitting just northwest of Bedford and Olytic. Through the evening hours, isolated thunderstorms, all with heavy rainfall, temperatures stuck in the 70s.
Today, Acting Secretary of Defense Patrick Shanahan withdrew his nomination. The president saying in a tweet that Shanahan wants to devote more time to his family. Secretary of the Army Mark Esper will be the new Acting Defense Secretary. And today we're learning another U.S. tourist has died on a trip to the Dominican Republic. This comes after a number of other tourist deaths in that country this year. Chris Welch found this is bringing up new questions about travel and safety there.
It was supposed to be a relaxing beach vacation. A group of Jimmy Buffett fans from Oklahoma on their annual trip to the Dominican Republic in April. And while it started off that way...
Yeah, about the 3rd day in, we started noticing people were missing events, concerts, whatever, and began to wonder what was going on, and then found out that they were sick, and then before long, a lot of us started getting sick, including myself.
Dana Flowers was sick for 19 days.
A nausea, but then it turned to vomiting, then diarrhea, and then dizziness, faint, cramping, headaches, body aches, that type thing.
Of the 114 people in their group, 47 got sick, and those symptoms similar to what many others who've visited various resorts there have experienced. The State Department issued an advisory in April to exercise increased caution due to crime, but they aren't telling tourists to cancel any plans.
We don't have to recommend discontinuation of travel at this moment in time.
Dr. Robert Quigley with International SOS, a medical and travel security company, says there's still too many unknowns.
In the Dominican Republic, where there has clearly been a cluster of deaths, we have concern about that, as does everybody, but we have no knowledge as of yet, and it's an evolving story, as to the cause for this cluster of deaths.
But Flowers, now healthy once again, runs a travel agency of his own, and he says until we know exactly what's going on, he won't recommend the Dominican Republic to anyone.
It's just crazy. The more I hear, the more I know that there's got to be something not right.
I'm Chris Welch reporting.
Such a concerning situation there, Chris. Thank you. All right, let's turn back to our lineup here on The Now. And shopping for a car online, it is convenient, but we have a new warning about fake listings just like these that have been showing up.
And Keller, right now.
Welcome back to The Now. Indy on RTV6. New developments. An Indiana man now faces murder charges after convincing a woman in Alaska he'd pay her millions to kill someone and send him photos of the murder. We are now learning more about the arrest of 21-year-old Darren Schillmiller, who is from New Salisbury in Harrison County, Indiana. Police in Alaska say Schillmiller, who posed online as a millionaire named Tyler, convinced 18-year-old Denali Brimmer of Alaska to commit a murder. She is the woman Schillmiller was having a relationship with online. Court records say Brimmer enlisted friends by telling them they would receive substantial shares of money for their part of the planning and execution of the murder. Schillmiller allegedly offered Brimmer $9 million to kill a 19-year-old in Alaska and sent him videos and photographs of the murder. The 19-year-old was found dead June 4th along a river in Alaska. The woman had been shot. Schillmiller is now awaiting extradition to Alaska.
Shopping online is the preferred way for a lot of people to buy a lot of different things, but we're going to bring in Andy Taylor right now with 2 warnings about shopping online for a big ticket item.
Next to homes, cars are one of the most expensive purchases that we make. And while price shopping and comparing online ahead of time is always a great idea, there's a couple of things you need to know before you start shelling out cash. So the Federal Trade Commission and eBay Motors just teamed up to put out an alert about phony online car sales. People are creating listings for relatively inexpensive vehicles on websites like eBay Motors, and they'll chat with you, answering questions, sharing photos, even throwing out lingo like buyer protection program. But the problem is they don't actually own the car or have a car at all. Recently, scammers on eBay Motors have went as far as to send fake invoices. Check out all the red flags on this email. The email address isn't from eBay. Price is too good to be true, bad grammar, phone numbers that don't actually belong to eBay, and mainly they get pushy, asking for payments fast through services like PayPal, Western Union, and Walmart gift cards. If anything, when it comes to buying any car, listen to the consumer advice editor for Auto Resource website Edmunds.
No matter how good a deal seems online, no matter how much you like a vehicle's research and reviews, please, 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 please take time to go test drive that thing before you buy it. I don't know what's going on in this world right now, but people are buying cars without test driving them. And once you buy that car, it's yours and you can't return it.
And if you're not sure if a vehicle offered for sale on eBay is legit, you can contact eBay customer service and forward suspicious emails to them.
Just have to do your research. Annie, thank you. Let's turn back to our lineup here on The Now. And a lot of people are going to state prison for a reason you may not expect. Nearly half are there for technical probation or parole violations like failing a drug test. How these costs are adding up for all of us.
Tune up for only $89. For on time.
Let's start the Now news feed with who authorities think ordered a hit on former baseball player David Ortiz in the Dominican Republic. Alberto Miguel Rodriguez Mota is believed to be the mastermind. Prosecutors say that he paid about $7,800 for the attack. It's still unclear at this point if Ortiz was actually the intended target. But today, the former baseball player's wife says that doctors have upgraded his condition from guarded to good. The Paris Air Show is this week, and Boeing is trying to regain ground after trouble with the 737 MAX. Today, the company receiving its first order for the 737 MAX since those two deadly crashes. The company that owns British Airways just ordered 200 of the aircraft. The company says it is confident those Boeing planes will fly again soon. Obesity issues in preschoolers on government aid seem to be dropping. The CDC says that it is seeing dropping obesity rates for children aged 2 to 4. Healthier food options in the WIC nutrition program are thought to be a big reason behind this, but researchers say still at this point there are just too many children in the United States who are too heavy. Nearly half of people in state prisons right now are in for minor infractions. This is new information we're talking about from the Council of State Governments Justice Center. Now, some of these minor infractions, they're things like failing a drug test or missing a curfew while on parole. Now, the Justice Center says this is costing everybody, not just those who end up behind bars. According to the report, sending these people to prison is costing states more than $9 billion a year. There are some celebrities that are trying to find a solution. They say that parole and probation violations, they come with unfair sentences. Rappers Meek Mill and Jay-Z founded the Reform Alliance after Meek Mill received a prison sentence in 2017 for violating his probation. He was released months later after a district attorney said that his conviction should have been overturned. Now, advocates with Reform Alliance acknowledge the goal of probation and parole is to keep people out of jail and help them build a successful life, but they say people are simply just cycling back into the justice system.
I made an illegal U-turn. It's a traffic ticket. You don't even take points for that. And I did 90 days for it.
Now the Justice Center wants states to do a checkup on their own parole and probation programs. They want them to look at how technical violations are impacting local jails and how they're reducing criminal behavior.
Thanks, Chris. Water rescue in southern Indiana turns into a big arrest. Jackson County Sheriff Rick Myers says a deputy found a driver stranded in high water on North County Road 700 East this morning. So crews rescued the driver, but it turns out the man was wanted out of Michigan, so deputies arrested him. The sheriff says the message is don't drive through high water, and if you're wanted, definitely don't drive through high water and get stranded. Two Indiana cities make a national list of best lake beach towns in the United States. Wallet Hub has ranked Portage, Indiana, and Michigan City, Indiana, among the top 50 lake beach towns in America. The group ranked Portage number 29 and Michigan City 32. Of course, Portage and Michigan City are both located along Lake Michigan. The cities earn high marks when it comes to affordability, so this may be a good summer weekend getaway option. That's nice to think about with all this rain going on, Kevin.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're creating some of our own lakes, and this is one of them on the southeast side. This is 74 and Franklin Road. I showed you during the 5 o'clock news the heavy rainfall that moved through. Look in the median and then the on-ramp in the upper part of the screen, and you can see the standing water as a result of a few rounds of heavy rain. Isolated downpours. They stay isolated tonight, then they'll fade away as we go overnight. Severe threat tomorrow with, I think, more widespread thunderstorms. Not much happening north of Indy. Showers, thunderstorms more likely to the south and east then of Indianapolis, right along this boundary. From Franklin on up toward Fairland, Acton, into Shelby County, some heavy downpours. And then this has been expanding. It was just sitting in northwest portions of Lawrence County, Bedford to Oolitic, now into southwest areas of Monroe, southwest of Bloomington, just to the west of Lake Monroe. 77, and the humidity, it is atrocious. Wind out of the northeast at 10 miles per hour through the day tomorrow. Thunderstorm chances will increase. I think the intensity of the thunderstorms likely will increase too. We'll push close to 80 degrees for the high. First thing in the morning, isolated thunderstorms around, little break, and then they become more widespread and a little more intense during the afternoon hours. High temperatures tomorrow right around 80. We'll unveil the 4-day forecast, and there's one unique day within that forecast. You'll see it coming up.
The USDA is sending out a warning about meal prepping. Let's bring in Andy Taylor to hear what could be wrong with that.
Chris, the most popular day for meal prepping seems to be Sundays, and that's when we usually have a little more free time to cook and are preparing for the entire week. But the USDA says that cooking for the entire week isn't exactly a great idea. Most food is only fresh for about 4 days, but nutritionists say there are some exceptions.
That cook temperature changes the bacteria. And so, for example, if you have it refrigerated up until Wednesday, then you have an extra 2 days for you to utilize it.
Things like deli meats, canned tuna, and even dairy last a little bit longer than meat or chicken you cooked at home. So if you know you won't be eating your meal within, let's say, the week, store it in the freezer as soon as you cook it. And when you're ready to eat it, allow it to thaw out. And another thing to keep in mind this grilling season, if you are barbecuing meats and you've left them sitting for more than 2 hours, you won't want to save that for another meal. It's best to just throw it out. And if you're really not sure if something is okay to eat or how long you should save it, you can always check on homefoodsafety.org.
All right, Annie, thank you. Good information there. And turning to really important information here for parents. One mom trying to help other parents after her son died when a dresser tipped over right on top of him. Megan DeLong says her toddler Connor was climbing on his dresser, and it was a dresser that did meet the voluntary safety standard, but that was not enough to keep it from tipping over. DeLong created the nonprofit. It's called Connor's Legacy Foundation, and it mails out kits that anchor furniture to a wall.
When I walk in this room, there's only one child, and I can never get him back, but I can spare other families from having that same fate.
More than 200 children have been killed by falling furniture since the year 2000. That is according to the Consumer Product Safety Commission. Let's turn to the Now News feed. This is a win for a father of a Sandy Hook victim against conspiracy theorists. Lenny Posner lost his 6-year-old son Noah in that shooting. He won a defamation lawsuit against the authors of a book who claimed that shooting never happened. The book's publisher even apologized to Posner, saying and admitting that the book was wrong. Boston Public Schools will now provide free menstrual supplies to students. Schools with students grades 6 through 12, they must have those products in the bathroom. Now, this is similar to laws launched last year in New York and Illinois. Airlines are cashing in big on bag fees. So far this year, airlines have made $1.3 billion off of bags. The Department of Transportation says that's about $170 million more than last year. Several major airlines raised their fees last year. E-cigarettes, they are becoming such a common problem among teens that schools are now starting to test for nicotine. A school district in Nebraska is planning to randomly test students if they're in extracurricular activities. Students from 7th to 12th grade would be required to do it. The school district has drug tested for a few years now. Students and parents, they had to consent to it. And they say that only a handful of students have actually failed each year. But once nicotine is added to the test, the district thinks that those numbers will rise. Experts, they say these tests may really not be enough to deter kids from vaping.
It's going to have big consequences for the individual kids, but it doesn't get at all at prevention or cessation. So what the kids need is good information and also help stopping using this very addictive product.
Some schools in California have been successful at educating students through a curriculum about e-cigs and stopping them from trying them in the first place. Now, schools think that smoking can be a distraction when it comes to education and extracurriculars, but employers are also starting to test for nicotine. Now, their main reason is to avoid paying higher health insurance premiums. Some people do feel that this is an invasion of privacy, but under federal law, because smoking is considered an activity, not a medical condition, it is legal. All right, finally in our lineup today here on The Now, tough question. Could you give up your smartphone for an entire year if it did mean you get $100,000? We're talking to a woman who's been doing it for nearly 5 months. Her advice next.